That's true. So, as legal gun owners, we're the highest percentage. More specifically, black females are buying guns at a rate more than any other demographic. So, it's important for us to learn these things to know how to be safe, not only to keep our physical selves safe, but in the case of me as a law enforcement officer, keep my livelihood safe and to keep yourself from any type of civil or criminal litigation, which means following the law, correct? All right, let's go into the first side, please. We're going to talk about the law and what is justified under Georgia law. The official code of Georgia in the section 16321 talks about use of force in defense of yourself or others, and it defines when that force is justified. It's a little small on the screen, so I'll read it for you. A person, which is anybody, is justified in threatening or using force against another when and to the extent he reasonably believes that such threat of force is necessary, that's a big word, necessary to defend himself or a third person against such other's imminent use of unlawful force. Let's talk about that real quick. You're in your house, you hear somebody outside in the driveway busting open your car window. According to what I just read from the law, do you have legal authority to go out there and shoot that person? But you paid a lot of money for that car. The sister said she has insurance. The law says against another person who's threatening yourself or another person. What if it's your detached garage and somebody's in the garage? Can you go out there and shoot them down? No, the law does not give you legal authority to act in that manner. So we have to remember that. Let's play some of these scenarios out to their conclusion. Let's say you do see somebody out there breaking into your car. You do go out there and confront them with your legal firearm that you possess, and you end up having to shoot that person because then at that point they threaten you. Would that be legal in that situation? Yes. If you confronted the person and they presented force to you and you thought that you were in danger, yes. Tell me how many people have heard this. Well, if somebody tries to break into your house, just shoot them on the front porch and drag them inside. We talked about discernment, right? In the very first part of the talk. That's not quite true, folks. It's not quite true. Let me get the next slide, please. Deadly force is different than a simple use of force because if somebody says, I saw you looking at me some way during the service, when we get in the parking lot, I'm going to slap you in the face. That doesn't mean you can get your gun and go shoot them, right? Because they didn't offer deadly force to you. But there is a legal definition of what deadly force is. A lot of people say, well, as long as you say, I was in fear for my life, I could shoot him. That's not what the law says. The law says if you're justified in using deadly force, if you're in fear of losing your life or receiving great bodily injury. What is great bodily injury? The loss of a limb, the loss of vision, the loss of sight, broken bones. That also constitute deadly force. So you don't have to be in fear of getting killed. It's getting killed, or receiving some type of great bodily injury. You can also legally use your firearm to stop the commission of a forcible felony. A forcible felony. What is a forcible felony? You go to pay for your gas station or to get your lottery ticket. We're not supposed to be gambling though, right? we go to the clerk and there's somebody there with a gun pointed at the clerk. Are we legally authorized or justified in using deadly force to stop that forcible felony? Yes, yes. There's a list up here: aggravated assault, aggravated battery, aggravated sexual battery, aircraft hijacking, child molestation, kidnapping. There's a large list of what constitutes forcible felony. Carjacking is a forcible felony. We talked about the situation where you're in your house and somebody's breaking into your car. Now let's change a little bit to where you're in your car and somebody tries to carjack you. That's a forcible felony. You are authorized, legally justified in using the appropriate amount of force based on the force that you receive or that you reasonably receive. Somebody reaches into their pocket and says, "I'm about to shoot you down." And they start reaching and you see something coming out of their pocket. Do you have to wait until you see a gun and they point it at you and shoot you for you to respond in defense? No, no. You don't. So we have to go by what the law says, right? And if we think or we feel that the laws are unfair in some way, we need to be going to vote. To vote. Next slide, please. If you reasonably believe that you're being presented with deadly force under the law, you have legal authority to protect yourself. Reasonably is different for every person. Somebody who, just one real quick, somebody who has more experience, maybe they're a veteran, they're going to be able to recognize different types of weapons, firearms, more than somebody who has no experience. So what's reasonable for that person is different. And who gets to decide what's reasonable? The jury. The jury on the tail end of the case. The jury. When you go to court, the jury will be instructed by the judge of what the law is, and then they apply the law to that situation. Same thing with police officers. Police officers have vast training, more than the average citizen. So we're held to that standard of training, and it's different even for us. Myself as a 23-year veteran law enforcement officer versus somebody that comes right out of the academy last week, the reasonableness standard is different because of my knowledge, training, and experience. Do you have a question or did I get it for you? Okay. All right, good deal. That's serious bodily injury. Again, any injury that creates a substantial risk of death or cause serious permanent disfigurement or prolonged loss or impairment or function of any body part or organ. Somebody says, "I'm going to take this pencil and stick it in your eye. Can you shoot him?" Who says no? That's a good, say that louder. If they're back there in the vestibule and they're waving that pencil, "I'm going to stab you." You're going to line them up? Please don't, because we're going to lock you up. I'm sorry. Okay. That's goes to what's reasonable when we start thinking about different scenarios, right? Next slide, please. This is the one that talks about use of force in defense of habitation, which means your house. If you're out of town or if you're here in town and you're staying in a hotel room, that room has just become your habitation. And the law says a person is justified in threatening or using force against another when and to the extent he or she, here's that word again, reasonably believes that such threat or force is necessary to prevent or terminate others' unlawful entry or attack upon a habitation. Meaning, if somebody's knocking on the door, just because you don't recognize who it is, doesn't mean that you can shoot them through the door. But now you look through the window and they're trying to kick the door in violently. There have been cases where people have shot through the door at the attacker and been justified. 1623. Next slide. 16323 further talks about how the entry is made if it's in a violent or tumultuous manner, thereby kicking the door in. Forcibly by a non-family member, because you'd hate to have somebody who actually lives there who was unexpectedly coming back home and shoot that person. Owning a firearm or possessing or using any other weapon is a great responsibility. It is awful. It is awful. As we were told, and Virgil will back me up on this, when we went through the police academy, we were told every bullet that's in our gun has our name on it. And we're responsible for wherever it travels. Somebody tell me what happens on December 31st about 11:59 p.m. every year here in Augusta. Happy New Year. Those bullets have to come down, right? That is an example of improper gun safety. Because wherever that bullet lands, that person is responsible, whoever fired, for wherever it goes. Mm-hmm. That's correct. Do I have another question on this side? Yes, ma'am.
Pertain to what extent do these laws pertain to schools?
So schools generally have another whole set of laws applied to them. As of now, schools are a gun-free zone. Um, it's interesting, and I'm going to go just a little bit off topic and stand on my soapbox. Would we agree that a teacher who is faced with an armed shooter in a school, who puts the kids in a room, locks the door, and stands as a hero in between the shooter and the children, to be something that to be applauded? That's a good thing. They risk their lives, they sacrifice themselves to protect the kids. Is that a good thing? Now, as some states and some people are trying to bring into law, now that teacher who's locked the kids in a room and is between the kids and that gunman, you put a gun in the hand of that teacher where they can defend against that school shooter, all of a sudden it's a problem. Because guns, we shouldn't expect teachers to defend the students, but we should expect them to lay their life down for the students. Just something to think about. I'm going to step off my soapbox. We have to think about these things holistically, not in a linear fashion going from point A to point B. We have to look at the whole situation and what it might entail. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Question.
I'm going back to when the unlawful entry into the home. And, you have the no-knock warrant from the police. You have people entering homes. And I know, and it's reasonable again. If you don't know who's entering your home, and even if it's police, how would a jury look at that as far as reasonableness?
Great question. Great question. Notice the law says unlawful entry. Police on a no-knock warrant have a warrant signed by the judge saying that there's such a danger inside the place that they want to go that the no-knock provision is added to the warrant, and they have to make special requests for a no-knock. There have been cases where police have executed no-knock warrants, and there was a legal gun owner in the residence who immediately woke up, saw these people breaking into the house, and shot and hit one of the officers. Being that they were a legal gun owner, there was no reasonable evidence to show that they knew in that split second that it was the police. They were found innocent. It does happen. But again, the laws are in place. The laws are in place. It's already illegal to have a gun and go shoot people. And if a criminal wants to do that, a gun-free zone, is that going to stop? Is the bad guy, as he's going to go shoot up the mall or the school, gets to the door and sees a sign that says gun-free zone, he's like, oh, they got me, I can't do it. Doesn't work like that, does it? So we have to use our mind. We have to use our, what did we say in the first text? Discernment. That's right. A lot of issues have been brought up about stand your ground. Georgia has a law. It's not called the stand your ground law, but it addresses that scenario. Some states, I'm going to blow your minds right now. Some states have laws that say if somebody breaks into your house with a gun, you have a duty to retreat out of your house and flee until you get to a point where you can't flee no more. And only then, when you're backed up into a corner, can you use deadly force to defend yourself. Yes, sir.
You have to be almost dead for you to use deadly force. They don't have a stand your ground. They don't have a self-defense law.
Right. In Georgia, when it comes to using force, you have no duty to retreat before using force to protect yourself. You have no duty to retreat before. In other words, if the guy's coming with a gun, you don't have to run away until you can't go no more, and then you're only then allowed to defend yourself. There's no duty to retreat in the state of Georgia. Next slide, please. People often ask, where can I carry my gun? The simple answer is, if nobody knows that you have your gun, anywhere. But that's not the legal answer, right? Okay. If you try to go into our courthouse or a municipal building and you try to bring a gun in there, you're going to have problems, right? Interestingly enough, if you go into the airport, in the common public areas, it is legal for you to have a gun on your person. Only if you enter the TSA secured checkpoint, where only ticket holders are supposed to go, then that becomes a problem. And now you're subject to federal laws and statutes. If there is a place such as this building where it is posted or an order is given where no firearms are allowed, then you can be in violation of the law. Next slide, please. Yes. I'm sorry?
Is there an unless, like, is there an exception?
Law enforcement, there's a law enforcement exception in some places. What's that? No, I'm gonna get to you right here. So here's some unauthorized locations: government buildings, courthouses, jails, or prisons. And some jails or prisons will actually have a guard line. It's painted on the ground around the property, and anything inside of that line, it's unauthorized for you to carry a gun. State mental health facilities, bars, which of course nobody in here would be in, unless the owner permits it. Nuclear power plants within 150 feet of any polling place, for obvious reasons. You don't want somebody at the front door of the polling booth with their sign, "Vote for whoever," with a gun on their hip. Say, "You're gonna vote for them, right?" Right? No, we can't have anything like that. Yes, ma'am, question.
So if schools are no gun zones, why are schools not on that list?
This is not a comprehensive list of all the places, but schools are gun-free zones. Yes. Place of worship. Here. Now, if the governing authority allows it, many churches have security teams, then yes. Any private property where they allow it, yes. Any private property where they don't allow it, no. Next slide. Let's talk about basic, I'm sorry, yes, question.
What about permits? When do you need a permit to carry?
We had a new law that was recently signed called constitutional carry. Constitutional carry, simply as I can, means that if you are legally authorized or able to carry a weapon, you do not have to go down and get a firearms carry permit to carry that weapon. It does not, I repeat, it does not just allow anybody now to carry a gun. People who weren't legally authorized, felons, people who had a history of family violence charges, convictions, they are still not authorized to carry a firearm on their person. Question. Okay. That is correct. If you go down to the courthouse and apply for a gun permit, there are certain requirements that you have to have. No felonies, no family violence, no recorded history of mental illness, things like that. And they deny your permit. That means you're not legally authorized to carry that gun. The new law doesn't change that. All the new law states is that if you are legally authorized, if you could go and get a permit you don't need a permit now. I'll see if I can rephrase it. If you go down to the courthouse and apply for a gun permit and get denied, you are a person who's not legally authorized to carry a gun. The new law doesn't change that. You're still not authorized to carry that gun because you can't apply for and get a gun permit. So, mhm. Mhm. Right. So, this is a good question. Purchases. If you go down to your local gun store and you go to purchase a weapon, you don't just give them the money, they hand you the gun. That's not what happens. They run a background check on you to make sure you are legally authorized to purchase that weapon. A gun permit means that you hand them the gun permit. They say, yes, this matches you, this matches your ID. We'll take your money. Here's your gun. Because the gun permit, you've already done the background check. As far as purchasing weapons, that's the difference in purchasing a weapon. No, no. When you have a permit, that's your background check. That serves as your proof that you're legally authorized. If you don't have it, now they have to run your information, do the background check, and you have to wait depending on the state, it may be several days, weeks. In Georgia, it might be 15 minutes. If the system's down or running slow, it might be 3 days. Right? If you have your permit, it's right there. You can get it because you've already proven. I'm going to address that. We're going to address traffic stops. Next slide. Safety first. We're going to actually talking about you legally having your gun and what you should do to stay safe. Next slide, please. We've all heard about people shooting themselves or others while they're cleaning a gun. That is, in my opinion, it's not an accident. It's somebody being negligible. It's being negligent. You should always keep a firearm pointed in a safe direction or at your target. You should only put your finger on the trigger of a firearm when you're getting ready to shoot something. Those two rules, if they're followed, will stop all people getting accidentally shot. If it's pointed in a safe direction, rule 1, and they forget rule 2 and accidentally pull the trigger, the gun's going to fire into a safe direction. If they disregard number 1 and it's pointing at somebody, but they don't touch the trigger, it's not going to go off and shoot them. Question. If I was in here, pointing it back here at the stage, I would consider a safe direction, meaning not at y'all, not out the window, not up through the roof, not, at one of these doors back here where there could be somebody back there. Where my gun is pointed now, I would consider a safe direction. It's pointed right at the ground. Treat all weapons as they're loaded. Somebody say, hey, look at this new gun that I got. And you take it from them. How do you know it's unloaded if you didn't unload it yourself? Even in somebody's home, that's not your gun. You didn't unload it. Don't put your hands on it. Don't point it at somebody. Keep your finger off the trigger. Make sure it's unloaded before you handle it. Here's a big one. Know what's behind your target and beyond. Also, what's in front of your target. Again, if somebody comes through that door trying to do something bad to you good people, I'm going to have a reaction. I will tell you, I'm not going to run through the door back here. Okay? I'm going to address the threat. But I have to be aware of everybody who is in between myself and the bad guy, and also who may be on the other side. If I take a shot at that person, it goes through the door, through the window, and hits somebody driving by on Wrightsboro Road. That's my responsibility. That's my responsibility. People will say, well, why didn't the police just shoot the gun out of his hand? So if you try to take chopsticks and catch a fly, that's about the same difficulty it is as to when somebody's drawing and shooting a gun at you to shoot the gun out of their hand. People will say, well, why didn't they just shoot him in the foot? Well, if I get shot in the foot by a bad guy, I'm still going to pull my gun and I'm going to shoot him. Same thing if I shot him in the foot and he's got a gun on you, his hands still work. We shoot to stop the threat as quickly as possible. And there's a discernment there. We're not shooting to kill. We're shooting to stop the threat as quickly as possible. Anybody with any medical training knows that the central nervous system, if you shut that down, that stops somebody as quick as possible. Next target, next slide. One more, please. Notice when they're handling the handguns, if you can see that, the handgun is in an open and unloaded condition. Never, ever hand somebody a loaded gun, please. Never hand somebody a gun where the barrel of the gun is pointed towards you or them. Again, these are basic safety points that can keep you safe when and if you decide to have, own, use, or train with a firearm. Next slide. So where do we put our guns? How do we store them? Do we store them on the bookcase, in the nightstand, under your pillow? My answer to that is maybe. It depends on your situation. Depends on your situation. Depends on the purpose for the gun. If you own a hunting rifle, the best place for that is locked up to where when you're not hunting, the gun is safe. If it is a home defense firearm, whatever it may be, pistol, shotgun, rifle, whatever it is, it needs to be a place that is not out in the open, but it's hidden and accessible. And accessible. Meaning, some people will tell you, well, you should separate the ammunition from the firearm, put the firearm in the safe. When the bad guy comes in, you can't tell him, sir, just give me 1 second. Let me go get my bullets. Let me go get my gun and put everything in. Don't move now. Don't move. I'm getting my. All right, now. I don't suggest putting it under your pillow. Me personally, I have a holster that is attached. It's secured to my bed frame, to the side of my bed. It stays there. That's its only job. That gun does not move. It is always there. I can get it in the dark. I don't even have to open my eyes because it doesn't leave that spot. That's its only job. I also have some various other guns in other places, but again, that's only for me to know. That's for the bad guy to find out. I have been a victim of a home burglary. So it's real. If you're not going to use the gun for home safety and home protection, it needs to be locked up. People who have kids and grandkids, We all were young. We knew we got into stuff, and they will too. They will too. We actually had a case, not we here, but law enforcement had a case where a 4-year-old, 4, shot at officers at a traffic stop because the father, who illegally had a weapon, took it out and put it in the back where the 4-year-old picked it up and shot at the officers. We got to keep these babies safe. Next slide. Yes.
Going to the firing range myself and shooting a weapon, most people, if they shoot at a target 10 feet away, will miss that target if they don't know what they're doing. I've seen it happen. Would you recommend for home safety? I tell people, and I could be wrong, so I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. The best weapon to have for home safety is a shotgun rather than a handgun if you don't know how to use a handgun.
So the question was recommendations for home safety weapons. A lot of people say shotguns because you don't have to be as precise. Here's my take on it. Whatever weapon that you're comfortable with, that you can use effectively, is the best weapon. When you're out and about, the weapon that you have on your person, that you've practiced with and you're accurate with, that's the best weapon. So it could mean a shotgun. A shotgun is one of the weapons that I have in my home protection arsenal. For everybody, that's different, right? If you live in an apartment, a rifle might not be the best choice for a home defense weapon because rifle bullets and handgun bullets go through walls very easily, right? So the caliber, the type of ammunition that you use, possibly a shotgun, might be a better choice. Now, if I live out off of Brown Road, still Richmond County, but it's kind of country and they have some distance, I might need that rifle, pistol, or whatever it is. The situation is going to dictate what kind of weapon that you choose to use for your own defense.
You don't have to be as precise with a shotgun. What does that mean? I mean,
So, shotgun rounds, bullets, typically, and depending on which one you choose, have multiple projectiles that when you fire them, they spread out in a pattern. They spread out in a pattern. Also, not so much with the young people, the Zoomers and the people who were born recently, but for us, older folks, the sound of a 12 gauge shotgun being racked is unmistakable. Right? If they are not determined, that might change their mind. No. But whatever weapon system you choose, don't just buy it and put it away. You have to maintain it. You have to select the right ammo for it. You have to train. You have to make sure that whatever you shoot at, you're going to be accurate. If somebody comes in here and grabs Virgil from where he is and where I am, due to my training, I'm confident that even if he grabs him, I can pull my gun and shoot the bad guy and not hit Virgil. But that's not for everybody, though. If you have that shotgun, you got a whole different set of problems now. Virgil, I love you, brother, but I'm sorry. But like for other weapons, the shotgun has different ammunition that you can carry. Some shotgun bullets just have one projectile, which makes one hole, and you can shoot it very precisely. And if I had that type of ammunition, I can make an accurate shot out to about 50 yards. So, yes, I have. Most people aren't. Most people aren't. But the marshal's office does things like the citizens firearms class, where we talk about some of the same things I'm talking about. We take you out to the range, let you shoot. We provide weapons. So if you're looking to buy a weapon, you can try different ones to see what fits you and what you like. We also feed you lunch, and it's free. What? Yeah. How many people are friends with the marshal's office on any kind of social media? Okay. We advertise it. Our classes have been full with a waiting list for the last 2 years. But don't let that discourage you. Go ahead and call our office. I'm going to put my contact information at the end and sign up for an upcoming class. The sheriff's office also does a class. I think theirs is $20, but you get like a free gun lock and free hearing and eye protection. Yes, sir. It's going to be, I think we limit it to 21 and older. Yes. Now, that doesn't say if you have experience, you can't take those people to a range or to somewhere and do training on your own if you're knowledgeable. Yes, ma'am. So for the state, it's 18 or 21. I can't recall it offhand. I think it might be 18. Any other questions before I keep going? This is a good, yes, ma'am. I want everybody to be able to hear your question.
A friend of mine, she lives alone. She wear hearing aids. She can't sleep in them. So if someone was to come into her house, she wouldn't actually know until they're up on her.
My suggestion for that is ADT, Brinks, any number of home alarm systems, security systems where they can put sensors on the doors and windows to where when she sets it, if somebody tries to come in or opens the door, the alarm will sound and she'll know somebody's in the house.
I have a security system in my home. I'm getting ready to get a dog. Picking him up and breeding.
A dog,
Dog is probably the best.
that's a good security system.
Yeah. They'll let you know anyway.
Yep, if it's a good dog. If the bad guy brings a steak with him, some dogs are like, my new best friend. The picture that you see up here is a quick access safe. Basically, this one, you put your hand on it, press a combination, it automatically pops open. Some of them are fingerprint activated. I'm not a fan of those because it's electronic, it has batteries, it's going to fail. I like something that's manual where you could just put your hand on it, press the button, and your safe's going to pop open. Next slide, please. What about carrying your weapon? What's a safe way to carry your weapon? Not just shoving it in your pocket or in your purse. These are some examples of different holsters that you can buy for handguns, and I would recommend that. One of the ancillary reasons for that, let's say you have to shoot somebody, right? Now they're on the ground and you got your gun and the police are coming. You're going to need to put that gun somewhere when the officers come, right? You're not going to say, hey, police, I shot him, look. That's probably not something that you want to do. So with these, you can reholster the gun and then either And do whatever else you need to do, whether it be get your phone out and call 911, perhaps render aid, maybe. Us as law enforcement, we're required to do that. Even if somebody was just shooting at me, trying to take my life, trying to take your life, trying to take your child's life, and I shoot that person, now I get to put my gun up and I have to render aid. I have to try to save that person's life. That's part of my duty as a law enforcement officer. Yes. I'm sorry?
Where would a female carry hers?
Purse, but in a holster. In a holster. There are holsters. There are some purses that are specifically designed with a pocket for a gun that's accessible in a different way than just reaching in. It's in a specific pocket to where that's the only thing that goes in that pocket. I would still recommend some type of covering so you don't reach in your purse and accidentally pull the trigger. They also make, they call it thunderwear. And it's something that attaches to the center of the bra and hangs down right here where it's concealed. They also have thigh holsters. They also have belly band holsters that you can wear under your shirt for anybody.
So if I wanted to purchase a purse holder, that's what I'm asking for?
So you can get just any holster that covers up the trigger and just place that in your purse. Or what I was talking about, there are certain purse designs that are specifically for carrying a weapon in the purse. And the purse actually has a special pocket built into the purse only for a firearm. You wouldn't put your phone or your change or anything else in there because the only reason you should go into that pocket is for that gun. Next. Is this safe or unsafe? Unsafe. It's just in their pocket. You should never carry a gun on your person without securing it in some way in a holster is my recommendation. This particular holster that I have on, it's called a paddle holster. It actually goes inside my pants and around my belt. And one of the good things about this holster is it has a locking mechanism. So as you see, I'm pulling on it and it's not coming out. I actually have to activate a button on the inside of the holster for it to come out. Meaning if I'm out and about, I'm in public, I'm at line at the store, and somebody goes to grab my gun from the rear, it's not gonna come out. Next slide, please. All right, here's a good one. This one, a lot of people have a question about. What to do if you're pulled over and you're carrying your weapon? First thing you need to do is remain calm. Second thing to do is keep your hands visible at all times. You don't have to stick them out the window. My suggestion would be on the steering wheel with the palms up. Palms up. Everybody understand that? Put your hands on the steering wheel with your palms up so they can see that you don't have anything in your hands. Notice the very next thing is not go for your wallet, go in your glove box, whatever, because people keep guns on their hips or in their glove boxes. Immediately, as soon as possible, advise the officer, I have a firearm and its location. Sir, I have a firearm. It's on my right hip. Advise me what you'd like me to do next. Probably a response like, why are you pulling me over for? You don't have anything better to do? Why don't you go catch the real criminals? Anybody who's had friends or family die as a result of traffic accidents knows that that's important. It's important that we enforce traffic laws. Anybody who's watched real police videos or cops, when an officer is approaching your vehicle and they've got their hands on their hips, and it's day or night, why you just want to come up here and shoot me because you got your hand on your gun already. If that was the case, they could walk up to you with their gun out, right? If they wanted to just walk up and shoot you down. There have been times, let me borrow your paper here, depending on the situation, where I've done a traffic stop and I had my ticket book with my gun. I'm sorry, what'd you say? If when I determine that everything is safe inside of that vehicle, I'm going to put my gun up and I'm going to go about my business. For the most part at night, officers are unable to tell the race or gender of individuals who they pull over from behind, just FYI. Because people will say, why are you pulling me over? You're pulling me over because of this or that. It is what it is. Follow the directions. If the officer asked you, okay, thank you for letting me know that you have a firearm. Do me a favor and step out of the car real quick. Go ahead and step out. Even without being advised of a firearm, an officer has legal authority in the state of Georgia to ask you to step out of the car. Doesn't matter who it is, we don't discriminate. And we don't give special treatment. If I'm in my personal vehicle and I'm being given commands by law enforcement, I'm going to obey the commands and do what they need to do. We can work out the details later. On the side of the road is not a time to have the case held. We've had people say, well, the officer decided that he was going to be judge, jury, and executioner right there. Was it the officer who did that? Or was it the subject who he was dealing with that escalated the situation, that didn't follow commands? Which in so many cases, it's sad. It's sad. In so many cases, our people would be alive today if they would simply follow the commands of the officer. Okay, it's gonna take away your ego or make you feel some kind of way on the side of the road. But on the other side of the situation, not only do you have your life, right? But if the officer was acting improperly, now we can deal with that officer. One of the jobs I have with the marshal's office is internal affairs. And I take it personal when people make us look bad. I'm in a position where I can deal with that. Everybody tracking? We on the same page? If there's a conflict, notice I put it in red. If you feel you're being treated unfairly, make a complaint at the conclusion of the traffic stop. At the conclusion of the traffic stop. Asking for an officer's supervisor at the beginning or during doesn't make the problems go away. You can still request a supervisor at the end of the traffic stop and make your complaint then. If you have any issues with your paperwork, license, insurance, registration, let the officer know up front. Yes, my birthday was last week and I forgot to get my tag. Officer, I have a gun in the glove box, but my registration is also in the glove box. How would you like me to proceed? Asking those type of questions. A lot of times I'll carry a gun on my ankle in the ankle holster. Officer, I have a gun on my ankle in my ankle holster. I'm keeping my hands where you can see them. Tell me how you want to proceed. What do you want me to do next? Next slide. That's my name, that's my office number, and that's my email. The email is the best way to contact me. That way, when you send it, I can make sure that I have a record of your email and the time and date it was sent. If you can't read it, it's the letter J, Scarlett, SCARLETT, at augustaga.gov. J Scarlett at augustaga.gov. Our office number is 706 821 2368. Now, if you're interested in learning more or purchasing a weapon, I have no problem talking to people or giving advice one-on-one. You can call me, leave me an email. I can even come and meet you at the gun store, because I have a personal belief that we need to be safe in, Pastor, these days and times. There's evil in the world. It's your duty to protect yourself and your family. Did you have a question? Yes.
So I'm back to the law again. If I purchase a weapon, I've gone through the check, the 15 minutes or whatever. Do I still need to go get a permit?
My advice would be everybody get your permit. One reason, if you're walking around and you have your gun, officer, I have a permit. Here's my permit. That's going to save you a lot of headache. If you go right across the river, 10 minutes away from here, and you don't have a permit, okay, now you have to go through a whole other process. There are probably 30 something states right now, 35 or 36, that recognizes permits from other states. When you travel, it is your responsibility to learn the statutes and laws of the states you'll be going to or traveling through. It's your response, because some states, they'll hem you up. For instance, real quick, I'm going to give you an example, and then I'm going to end it and let you out of here. If you're flying to Newark, New Jersey, and you have your gun in your checked bag, you can fly to Newark, pick up your firearm that's in your checked bag at the baggage claim, and go about your business. If for some reason, weather or whatever reason, your Newark flight gets diverted to JFK or LaGuardia, which is in the bounds of New York City, as soon as you go to baggage claim and put your hands on your gun, you are now a felon, because of the laws in the New York are different than New Jersey. So you have to know the law, even if you're driving through. A gentleman was detained a few years ago because the state that he was traveling through had different gun laws than his home state. They didn't recognize the permit, and it was illegal for him to have a gun in that state that he was traveling through. So if you travel with your gun, you have to make sure you understand the laws of the state that you were in. If you go into a state that doesn't allow guns, don't carry it. Or take the risk. Yes.
Let's say it's a state that you frequent because you have family there, such as New York. Because I'm a resident of Georgia, can I apply to get a permit for that state?
No, you can't apply for a state that you don't live in. Right.
In 2 weeks, this group or others will go to a firing range to practice safety. Can I carry my gun to that fire range without a permit?
Are you a felon? If you went down to the courthouse on Monday and applied for a gun permit, would you be issued a gun permit based on your criminal history? Constitutional carry says you can carry your gun with no problem. It can be on your hip just like mine is. Just a reminder, gun laws are for law-abiding people. Gun laws, just like any of the other laws, are for law-abiding people.
Okay. I'm back to the education questions again. So I have a legal, and this is the scenario. I have a permit to carry a weapon, and I have that weapon in my car at school. I'm not in my car. I'm at school. I'm working, what have you, doing what I do. Let's say I was threatened by a parent, because that happens. And school is over. I get into my car, or I'm going to my car, and that parent comes to me and threatens me again. Where am I legally, since a school is a no way?
So if your school has provisions or a rule where there's no guns, period, on the campus, you may be in violation of that. We also have to go to what the threat is, right? Let's put ourselves in the position of somebody who's judging a case, okay? What's the threat? It has to be specific, right? You can't just say, well, I was threatened, so I pull my gun out on them. There has to be a specific specificity of what the threat is. We also have to use that discernment, right? If there's somebody I know who's threatened me or have had problems with, and they're in the parking lot and I see them going this way and saying, hey, this crazy joker who threatened me is out here on the school property. You have sheriff's office, school resource officers, security, all those options before you now put yourself in a confrontation with somebody. Not to say that we have to think about the best course of action in the whole scenario. Yes, if they come up on you and threaten you, and you get in your car, close the door, start it up, and you drive away, the gun is not even an issue, right? Now you get in your car, same scenario, they take a crowbar or a tire handle out and go to start and break your window and go start trying to hitting you with that, they're offering deadly force. And you're, according to the law, authorized to defend yourself. And for me personally, at that point, I'm worried about that threat to my life or to my person well before the school grounds rules. Same thing with the active shooter that just happened several days ago at the mall. The mall was a gun-free zone, right? Did it matter to the person who wanted to kill all those people? But there was a gentleman who the state had just adopted the constitutional carry law days earlier, who said, I'm going to protect myself, dealt with a gunman. I thank you for your time and attention. Again, don't let this be your end point. Your discernment, studying for yourself, because I can stand up here and give you information about gun laws. The pastor can stand up here and bring you stuff from the book, but it's still up to you individually to do it for yourself. Find out what you need to be safe in this life or safe in the next life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, man. If you will, just for one moment, I know I have another question that I want to pose. Understand why you're here, why we're doing this. If you've seen I've done the news thing for Fox and for News Channel 6. The older elderly lady who was attacked at the mall, robbed her and then hit her with the gun. that did something to me. I, and I'm sure this is not, I'm not saying anything that doesn't affect you. Every day, we're seeing our people on the news. Some act of violence, shooting, killing, murder, that kind of thing. It's my responsibility as pastor to protect the sheep. And as far as I'm concerned, all of the CSRA are my sheep. And so I'm doing this, and we're doing some other things. I'll mention that as well, because I need you to be protected. Let me give you my understanding of what the book says. Paul says in Romans chapter 8, as much as possibly live peaceably with all men. As much as possibly, because some people you can't live peaceably with. The other is, and this is my interpretation, I know y'all probably got some problems with it, but David says in Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He also says his rod and his staff, they comfort me. Amen. And the rod and the staff was there to ward off the lions, the tigers, and the bears. Oh my. And if you can't ward them off, then you put them down. Now, our intent is to walk away, is for everybody to walk away from a situation, not for you to be hurt or you to hurt anybody. But at the same time, it's not always possible to live peaceably with all people. And so we want to make sure you're protected. So like next week, here at Macedonia, I started something I call the flag ministry, Fight Like a Girl. Because Sergeant Scarlett, we're going to have someone come in and to teach self-defense techniques also. Because sometimes a person won't come up to you with a gun or whatever, but they'll walk up on you, rob you, whatever the case may be. And I want our ladies to know how to defend themselves. And then as Sister Deli mentioned, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be going to one of our members' farm who has set up a firing range. We're going to be firing our weapons. We're going to be actually shooting them. What Sergeant Scarlett said is absolutely true. It's not enough just to have a weapon. You need to know how to use it, because many people have hurt themselves, with guns rather than, and so we want to make sure you do that. So I'm definitely going to sign up for, that class that the sheriff's office is. If I got to wait 2 years, I want, because I go to the firing range and I'm pretty good with the weapons that I have, but I want to learn more. Now, a couple of questions. One, and of course, we know that there is that. Well, let me put it this way: that what's the term I'm looking for? What's the term I'm looking for? When they walk up on a black person, police officers, and there are some persons who will profiling. Okay, that's the word I'm looking for. Would you recommend a person, and I live in South Carolina now. Would you recommend, I got pulled over by a cop coming from the church at 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to get something, and I was riding home 1 o'clock in the morning, and going home where I live, there's not much out there. And I got pulled over, and the reason for his pulling me over was I swerved, my wheels hit the yellow line. I immediately put on my watch, my Apple Watch, I immediately hit record. I can let you listen to it. He said, I know I'm not speeding. I knew he was behind me. I know I'm not speeding. I immediately hit record, and I said, I'm hitting record. Please, I just got pulled over. There's no reason for me to be pulled over, that kind of thing. And he asked me for my license and registration. He said he's pulling me over because my left tires hit the yellow line. So, okay, no problem. There was a dog. It did it twice. There was a dead dog in the road. I swerved past the dog, and then apparently I went across the yellow line. So he went back, got my license, registration. I recorded, and I said in the recording, if he comes out of his car with his gun, I'm taking off. And let you listen to it. My question is, in some cases, would you advise for a person to pull into a public area, like a grocery store, rather than on the side of the road, if they feel like myself, I knew I wasn't speeding? What would you advise? I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing. You tell us.
Couple things, 3 things. We understand that there's evil in the world. It might be the nurse at the hospital who is giving you medication and they're supposed to give you a certain amount, but they keep a certain amount for themselves. It might be an officer who is acting outside the scope of his legal authority. It might be the elder in the church that's dealing with somebody else's wife. The job doesn't matter. There are evil people, yes. We also have to understand the law. We talked about that. Touching the yellow line going outside the lane is a sign of impairment. That's how we get DUI drivers. That's what they do. Even further, in fact, when you go through DUI school training, and Virgil understands, you don't even have to touch the law, touch the line. Swerving within the lane, not speeding, again, is a sign of impairment and a reason that you can get legally stopped. Third thing, you may not know why you're being stopped until the officer approaches your vehicle. There have been many times, whether it's a vehicle that I was familiar with, whether it's a lookout on the radio for a blue Honda or whatever it was, where they just robbed somebody down the road. And if I'm pulling over that vehicle, I'm going to come out of the car with my gun and be giving that driver commands, regardless of who it is, just going off the information that I had. Now, last thing. Have there been cases where somebody gets pulled over, an officer walks up to the car and just shoots people? How many times does that happen? Can somebody give me a specific example? I'll wait a little bit. Should we have that fear if we can't even recall when that's happened? Will people tell you, yeah, they'll just come up on you and shoot you? Will people tell you that? Yes, yes. I would advise, yes, if you're nervous about it, you pull to a well-lit area. That's fine. Now, I don't want you to be on a high-speed chase, all right? I also want you to expect that if you don't stop within a reasonable place where there's room to pull over, that when you finally do stop, there's probably going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more officers there. Why is that? When that happens, what in the officer's mind is happening? They're either trying to prepare themselves to fight, destroy evidence, drugs or guns, hide something, call somebody to say, hey, I'm about to get pulled over, meet me, whatever it is. But yes, that's something that you can do, pull to a well-lighted area, but drive slowly. Don't put your flashers on. Don't create any more traffic infractions as you're moving to that point. You can call 911 while you're on the phone with the 911, tell them, hey, I'm at such and such location. This is my vehicle. I don't feel safe. The only thing I'm doing is going to somewhere that's well lighted, possibly populated. Now, if you're 28 miles from the next gas station, reasonably, yes. Use your discernment. That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just a note to you. And I moved to South Carolina 2 years ago from Georgia. I had a Georgia permit, and it was to expire, I think, in March. I moved in December. I wish I would have gotten my permit renewed while I was still in Georgia. Because once you go to South Carolina, you got to go through. It's crazy to get a permit in South Carolina. But if you get a permit in Georgia, your permit in Georgia is valid in South Carolina, I believe in Alabama as well, Tennessee, I'm not sure, but anyway. But how many? But 36, yeah. So if I'd have gotten my permit renewed in Georgia, then I would. So in South Carolina now, if I'm going to get a permit, I got to go through all this rigmarole, as my father would say. And so my recommendation: get your permit. Get your permit. It's just, it's just easier for you to do that. Anybody have any other questions? This has been wonderful. This has been great. Very, very informative. Anybody have anything else? Again, Lieutenant Scarlett, thank you, man. We appreciate it. Let's give him another hand. Thanks. And we're going to take advantage. We here at Macedonia are going to take advantage of everything we need to take advantage of. We're going to keep our people safe. And we're going to do that. Yes, sister. Say it again. Yeah. Yes. Yes, you need to have your own weapon to go to the farm for us to shoot. Okay? I think that's enough. That's good. Come on, let's stand. And we're going to pray. And I pray that if you have a weapon, you never have to use it. Yes. No, you're shooting targets. Bullets. You need bullets. Yeah, talk to Virgil. We are shooting targets. We're shooting real bullets. We're shooting real bullets. We're shooting real bullets. Yeah, we're shooting real bullets. We're shooting metal targets. And so yeah, you'll need to talk to Virgil about it. Okay. All right. Again, I have, like Lieutenant, I have a number of guns. I pray I never have to use any of them. I pray that upon you as well. I pray that God will keep you safe, that God will keep you protected. I pray that God will give us all discernment so that we would know how to avoid trouble. And I pray that God will just keep you and your family in all your ways. This is my prayer upon you in the name of Jesus. I pray it and I believe that it's done. In his name, we declare it done. Amen. God bless you. You all have a good afternoon. Blessings to you. Blessings.